Hi guys, and welcome back to another rare bird update from the Netherlands. This one from July 1st until July 8th, which is week 27 of the year. In one of my last videos I told you I wanted to do these rare bird updates more frequent, not monthly but weekly. So starting with that for week 27. Now I have to do a bit of catching up as July is almost over and we're starting with the first week of July. But don't worry, I will catch up to where we are now pretty quickly. In this video I will tell you about all the mega rare birds seen in the Netherlands in this week and also the most interesting records of the slightly less rare birds. And in the second part I will tell you about the rarest birds that have been seen in the Western Palearctic as a whole. So not rare for a specific country, but rare for the whole of the Western Palearctic. Enjoy! On Monday, the 1st of July, we started the Lauwersmeer, where the blue-winged teal was seen on the Ezumakeeg until noon. It took some birders who wanted to see it for their July list a couple of hours before it was finally refound on the south side of the Ezumakeeg, where it was seen at a large distance. It was the second record for July after a summering bird in 1974. Just the female little crake of Woensdag was reported and only until Tuesday the 2nd. I wonder when the first birds during fall migration will show up. The entire week, one or sometimes two Douglas terns were seen at Watsedjurnen. Will this become the first breeding record of a pair of Douglas terns ever for the Netherlands? I guess we will have to wait for future updates to get an answer. Douglas tern has once bred in the Netherlands, but this was a female paired with a common tern who raised two hybrid young, one in 1982 and one in 1984. Also on Monday, a European roller was photographed at the Mijnweg. This was picked up through the Waarneming.nl website on Tuesday in the afternoon, and after local birders went searching, they indeed refound the bird. It was seen until 10 am the next day, but there was another report at 1 pm by a birder who heard it calling while it flew overhead. The bird turned out to not always be easy to connect with, as it flew over large distances and was lost for multiple hours sometimes. The same behavior the bird on screen from the Marne Waard showed some years ago. The Blijfsriet warbler from the Drentse A was reported until the 4th, but the latest piece of evidence uploaded to Waarneming.nl dates from June 30th. Now let's hope some of the observers didn't misidentify the marsh warbler that was also present at the same location. In the early morning, a white-winged tern was found at Groede de Blikken. It was identified as the third calendar year bird and was reported until the evening of the 2nd and was reported by more than 20 birders. Another bird was reported on the 4th at the Kreupel. This week, two marsh sandpipers were present, one in the Lauwersmeer, reported only a couple of times, and one at the Lepelaasplassen, found by Gijs Betwicht, who was the only observer of this bird, which was seen only on the 2nd. The only ferruginous ducks reported were the two birds from Diependal and the one from the Kromsloten Park. No breeding attempts have been documented so far this year. Two hoopers were reported this week, one at Halle and one at Maastricht, although there are probably more as locations of breeding pairs are not shared for obvious reasons. The bird at Halle was reported from June 30th until July 5th by the finder until it finally was seen by others. Short-toed eagles were seen at the expected locations, one still at the Balloerveld and another one seen at the Hoge Veluwe. In the Vogelerhoofdveen, a maximum of two birds were reported, but this number can easily grow during the summer. Let's see what happens. The molting lesser scorp from the Eemmeer was still present, but hard to find between the thousands of other molting ducks at this location. On Tuesday, the first gull-billed terns at the sand excavation lakes of East Groningen were seen again, with first one bird reported in the morning, but in the evening there were already 9 present. These numbers will only increase as there are adults without young, and the pairs who did successfully raise young will appear later. The only bird outside of Groningen was a lone bird at the Walkumer Waard, found by none other than Sietse Bernardus. Numbers of black stork are still low, but on this map you can see where they were reported this week. A couple of European shags are staying the summer in the province of Zeeland, with at least 2 adult birds and a second calendar year bird at St. Philipsdam. Then there was also one report from Terschelling of a second calendar year bird found on the 4th. Glossy ibises were reported on the 2nd at the Kromsloten Park, on the 3rd at Watsedjurnen, and on the 4th up until the 7th on Ameland. Although the dates don't overlap, I would assume the bird from Ameland is one of the two birds that were seen there throughout June. of course the bird from the Kromsloten Park, and Wattiejune could be the same bird migrating south back to its native range. On Wednesday the 3rd, Pieter van Velen was the finder and sole observer of a green-winged teal at the Bochtjesplaat. A lot of American ducks seen this summer in the Netherlands, with besides the green-winged teal, also the canvasback of June, blue-winged teal of the Ezumakeeg, lesser scorp of the Emir, and the American widgeon of Kwadehoek. The only Belandskreek from this week was a bird reported from Montfort, and contrary to Belgium, no successful breeding records have been reported yet. Also on Wednesday, a squackle heron was found near Deventer. It could be seen throughout the entire week. The only reported hooded crow this week was the bird from The Hague. And the only record of long-tailed duck was the one from Terschelling. On the 6th, it turned out the American widgeon was still, or again, present between Gatwells at the Kwadehoek. On the same day, André Boven both found the broadbilled and pectoral sandpiper at Termunten, which is one of the best spots for broadbilled sandpiper in the Netherlands. Summer is the period for rare waders in the Netherlands. Will we see a mega? Stay tuned. Just like with the hoopoe, locations of breeding bee-eaters aren't shared with the public. There was just one other record of a flyover at Wellerlooy. This year seemed to be a good year for corncrakes. On this map you can see the locations that are shared publicly. Then the reports from the Western Palearctic as a whole. On July 1st, Silav Olofsson, one of the only birders from the Faroe Islands, found 2 South Polar skuas in Icelandic waters while on a whale survey. On the 5th, another South Polar skua was seen, but this time during one of the Silipelagics. The August edition of the Dutch Birding magazine will feature an article about this species. On the same day, in northern Norway, a masked wagtail was seen, which consists the 3rd record for the country. On the 4th, a group of 3 laughing doves were seen in southwestern Albania, a species that is expanding its range throughout Europe from Africa, although we must be aware of escapes as this species is also kept in aviaries. Another dove that is seen more and more in southeastern Europe is the Namaqua dove, with the first record for Romania occurring on the 3rd. On the 4th, a Cape gull was photographed on a beach in southeastern France. After the first Western Palearctic record in 1995 and 2 subsequent records in 2018 and 2022, this is now the 4th record of this species, which is showing up more and more often in Europe in recent years. On the 6th, 2 mega rare bunting species were caught and ringed on the same site in western Finland. It concerns the yellow-browed bunting, which is in fact a first for Finland. Interesting though, that a species with a relatively tiny breeding range in eastern Russia that was an absolute mega in the Western Palearctic has now been found 6 times in 2 years, with 2 of those actually found in the Netherlands. This Finnish bird is the 17th record for the Western Palearctic ever. The other bunting being the Pallas's bunting, which was the 11th record for the Western Palearctic outside of Russia, as the species breeds right on the Western Palearctic border. The last section of these videos will in the future contain information about which species to search for in the upcoming week, but because week 28 has passed when this video went live, there's no point in adding a forecast for that week. I will try to catch up with these updates as soon as possible, so you will get the information as much in real time as possible. Thanks for watching and subscribe for the upcoming updates.